You got it.
All right, we're live. Welcome everybody to the 4 for 4 DFS MVP podcast. I am your host and producer extraordinaire, John Breslin. You may know me as Squirrel Patrol. I'm joined by Neil Orfield and Davis Maddock. Bye weeks start this week, so Pat Carane is on the bye. How's everybody's week 4?
Man,
not great. Go ahead.
I needed that final 49ers drive to end in a passing or rushing touchdown for Brock Purdy, and I would have won the $33 on FanDuel. Instead of scoring a touchdown, he fumbled the ball, which also lost me 2 points, which was a pay drop from 4th to 7th, I think.
Better than my week. I mean, you at least had a sweat. John,
Yeah.
You had a sweat also, it sounds like.
I was winning the $250 on FanDuel for not winning. I think I was 4th place for $50,000. I mean, it pays out like 300 or something to first place. And I think it was Tutu Atwell that screwed me over. But it wasn't really Atwell because nobody had Atwell. But I got passed by all these Matthew
Stafford Puka teams.
Yep.
Yeah. It was probably all the people attaching Stafford to Puka, and Tutu Atwell does me in. But we are on to week 5, so we've got a 10-game slate. We've got, as always, some high totals, some big spreads. The Lions standing out there with a 30-point implied point total, but probably not going to see that much ownership. So we'll start with the game environments, and Neil, we'll start with you. What game environments are catching your eye this week?
Yeah, there are several pretty interesting ones here. The Cincinnati Detroit one is pretty obvious because Detroit has a 30 implied team total. It's just a matter of can Cincinnati keep it close? And if they can, I think that one stands out as a game that could be really fun. I'm really into the Washington Chargers game. I think in particular the Chargers side, just because Washington has been really bad against stopping passing games. So I'm really interested in the Chargers passing game in particular, but I think that game environment stands out as one that can be fun. Anytime Dallas is on the slate, they're going to be one of the game environments that I want to target. And then Miami, Carolina is one that, neither team has a super high implied team total, but it's a really close spread, really bad defenses. I think that one kind of a wide range of outcomes. And I like leaning in on those kind of crappy game environments where there could be some really fun fantasy goodness there.
Yeah. So this week, again, we see every game with a total below 50 points. We've had a couple of 50-pointers out there, but the games I think with the highest total are the Raiders and the Colts. And then we're seeing the Detroit and Cincy, but it's a massive spread in favor of Detroit. And then I think third is Washington and Chargers. Davis, what are you looking at in terms of the game environments?
I'm kind of thinking about it in the sense of what is the game environment that's marginal that people are into and seeing how it goes poorly. I think it's pretty obvious how the Jets and Cowboys game can go poorly, which is that the Jets succeed with their service academy offense. They had one drive that was 10 minutes in the game against Miami. If they have 2 drives that last 10 minutes, Dak doesn't get there. Pickens doesn't get there. Maybe Brees gets there. Fields probably doesn't get there. Garrett Wilson probably doesn't get there. Javonte doesn't get there. It nukes the field. And the Cowboys can easily give up 2 15-play scoring drives.
Yeah. We're seeing some spread out ownership this week, but it does seem like the Jets are getting a ton of ownership. I think some of it is pricing. And we just all watched Justin Fields break the Monday night 2-gamer or the showdown or whatever you were playing on Monday night, right? Justin Fields is capable of getting those 50-yard rushing touchdowns that just break everything. But the Jets are the underdog here. They're the home underdog against Dallas. And that is such a bad sign against this Dallas defense being the underdog. And then it's a little bit hard to have, total confidence in the Cowboys having this standout offense on the road against the Jets. And so that is that's a path to failure for the entire game. I'm trying to, because it projects well, but I'm damning it with faint praise and all of my written content.
Well, the projections are making some pretty big assumptions. They're giving a lot of the work that Braylon Allen was getting straight to Brees and not mitigating a ton of it there. They're also this is just the way projections work, is it's feeding a higher degree of Justin Fields passing efficiency than he's shown this year for the Jets because of the match. A lot of ways that game fails, I think.
Yeah. So It's a juicy running back position with a bunch of injuries. And we also like one of the factors. So I should say like beyond game environments, one of the overriding things on the slate, two overriding things. One, running back injuries like continue, and also like and these injuries were not like priced in necessarily because they happened on Monday, like Monday night. So like Braylon Allen went down, Tyreek Hill went down. And then we also have like Christian McCaffrey and Puka Nacua off the slate. They played last night, both put up their typical games. And so that's something we have to consider. Like we're getting these value running backs. We take the value and we go to spend up on Christian McCaffrey or Puka, but now they're off the slate. Neil, why don't you chime in? Thoughts on this slate as a whole?
I mean, I think there's like kind of a tier break for me. I think there's a top 3 running backs who look great in Jonathan Taylor, Devin Achane, and Jahmyr Gibbs. They're all going to get a ton of ownership. So no McCaffrey and Puka, but Devin Achane at 7,300 against Carolina seems kind of insane to me. Feels almost like McCaffrey-esque, where the price is just wrong. Again, this is one where like you could see it going wrong just because maybe they don't move the ball at all. Like we saw Carolina shut out Atlanta, so I still think of them as being a bottom tier defense, but they have at least succeeded once this year in totally shutting out an opponent. But I think at 7,300, given the passing game volume we expect from Devin Achane, he's my 101. Then you've got Gibbs against Cincinnati, who just can't stop anybody. Score on them however you want. And we don't really know how Detroit is going to choose to score on Cincinnati, but it'd be pretty surprising if they don't score.
Well, we know one of the players who's going to score against Cincinnati.
David Montgomery?
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Okay.
I think I would bet David Montgomery minus 1,000 to score an anytime touchdown in this game.
Is that narrative based or just
double?
Okay.
The narrative. So I assume everyone knows by now, but David Montgomery's from Cincinnati. His sister had a horrible accident a year ago. Hasn't watched him play. It's going to be the first time she's seen him play. Dan Campbell, of all coaches who would ever change play calling for a narrative, I would put him number 1 in my power rankings. But more importantly, and this is stuff you have to start contextualizing in the middle of the season, particularly when all the totals are the same. The Bengals defensive players have just straight up quit in each of the last 2 games because they look over their sideline. They see Jake Browning and Zach Taylor arguing with each other. They're like, what are we doing out here? Our coach is not putting us in we literally cannot win these games. What's the point? And the Lions, I pulled this up on my show earlier. Just in the last calendar year, they have 5 games of 40 or more points scored, which is by far even more than the Bills, because the Bills, the Ravens, these teams shut it down in the fourth quarter. They're just happy to see the clock out. And that is not the way the Lions play, which makes them extra unique for fantasy football.
Yep. Love that.
DraftKings Sportsbook, Jahmyr Gibbs minus 240 to score a touchdown. David Montgomery 195. Actually, Amon-Ra St. Brown also has negative odds at negative 105. I don't think you usually see like 3 players from the same team with my odds to score a touchdown. But maybe a little bit of value on the David Montgomery there at minus 195. Don't always cover the betting angles on this one on the show, but this one may be worth considering.
Yeah, I mean, he's just gonna I guess I can't guarantee he's going to score. Obviously, what I can guarantee is that his coaches are going to very much try and put him in a position to score.
Yeah, seems very, and he's not getting a ton of ownership. So that's the other thing with Dave Montgomery.
He will though.
He'll probably get steamed a little bit, but not. I don't think. Do you think he'll get to double digits? I think there's too much running back value for him to
depends on the contest. Depends on the contest.
In like a milli maker, I don't think he gets to double digits. No, because we have so much running back value that it's like, yeah, we've got this fun narrative, but also we've got Rashad White and Rico Dowdle and Amari DiMercado / Michael Carter and all these other options to go to. So he's one of my favorites of that group. I guess just continuing. So those are the 3 pay up options that I like the best. You can also throw in Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry in there. I did a show with Mathology earlier this week. He made the point that Derrick Henry, kind of interesting from the perspective of Houston's defense is very good, but also they're like small and fast. So like, I don't know how that is going to affect Derrick Henry. Like, is Derrick Henry just going to be able to bully them? We're just going to see a million stiff arms and they're to hell for the Houston defenders. I don't know, or they're just so fast that like they're gonna be able to keep up with them better than most defenses. I'm not sure, but a little bit interesting But I'm generally, though, we're just looking at awesome value here. Brees Hall, 5,600 against this Dallas defense. We've got some mid range with Javonte, Ashton Genty, but then Rico Dowdle is 4,300, really stands out now as cash game play, great play against this Miami defense with Chuba Hubbard out. We've got Dave Montgomery. We've got Woody Marks at 5,400, seemingly taking over that backfield against the Baltimore defense that is, I think, the worst in the league in terms of schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed, and in particular through the air, where Woody Marks really thrives. You've got DeMarcado versus Michael Carter. Michael Carter says he's the starter. He's only 4,000. We just have a lot of awesome value on this slate.
Davis, what are your thoughts on the running backs and the the value running backs, I guess, in particular? And we should touch on that Arizona situation, because I think there is some. I don't think people are going to end up going there because there's not a lack of clarity, right, between DeMarcado and Michael Carter. Probably Michael Carter getting the early rushes and DeMarcado handling the passing game work. But yeah, your thoughts on the value running backs?
My thoughts is that a minimum of one of them is going to end up being a total sinkhole in your lineup. Like a minimum of one will be I knew I should have faded the chalk. This guy sucks. He doesn't catch any passes. He got 6 points, right? If you made me guess which one it is right now, I would actually probably guess Mr. R. Dowdle, because he is attached to like just the worst overall functioning offense. I think the Panthers could just totally lay an egg in any given week. I suppose the interesting thing, particularly about him, though, is that he was handling the goal line work anyway, which is part of the reason why Hubbard had not been projecting very well. Chuba Hubbard has not gotten a touch inside the 5-yard line this year for the Panthers, despite getting bailed out with the 2 receiving touchdowns. My guess, again, would be that Trevor Etienne is probably not. Like he made a horrible special teams gaffe in week 2 and hasn't really played much on offense since then. In terms of preference, I think I'm going to run a really narrow core of running backs this week. Would not surprise me if amongst my, I hand build about 10 teams on FanDuel and DraftKings, and it wouldn't surprise me if I do not play anyone other than Rico, Rashad White, JT, A-Chain, Brees, and then the 2 guys I would consider to loosely be part of my pool would be Jeanty and Kamara. It really feels like a Kamara spot to me, because that's a pace up game. Both these teams are top 5 in pace right now, but it's got a low total, which tells me that the odds makers are looking at this spot saying these teams are going to run the ball so much. They're just going to be body blows after body blows. And I do not think Kamara's washed. Maybe bad take, but I'm on the side of him not being washed.
Does it even matter against the Giants is the real question. I like Kamara, actually somebody I've been drafting a lot in draft games. So totally with you on Same. Kamara. Did you not mention Gibbs in your core? Are you playing Gibbs?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Gibbs and Montgomery. I would almost maybe, I want to ask John about this. Because you play so many teams, do you ever do something like, I'm just not making a team that doesn't have a lion on it? It's got to be a lion on every team.
Very rarely, but sometimes I do. And it's often been like Ravens, right? And I've said, I think last week I made like a flag plant on a show. I was joking around like, oh, every lineup should have like Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson. I think the Ravens like went out there and just trounced somebody. Trounced somebody. It's like, oh, I actually should have implemented that rule. And so I'll do that sometimes. And like you could maybe argue like this week, like you should give consideration to like Jonathan Taylor if you're not playing Daniel Jones as your quarterback, maybe more of like a single entry or smaller field thing. Like try to account for the high implied point total teams like somehow. And yeah, the Lions have the highest implied point total at 30 points. Like, they're going to score points. And they are also like, they're one of those teams that will like keep the foot on the gas if they feel they need to, or just in general. And so you've got the David Montgomery narrative, and they're going to put up points against the Bengals. And so like there is an argument like you should have a Detroit player on each roster. The problem is like, what if it's one touchdown to Montgomery, one touchdown to Gibbs, right? One touchdown to like Laporta, one touchdown to Jameson Williams or Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Jared Goff maybe gets 3 touchdowns and they've suddenly put up 35 points, but they don't really have a usable fantasy score on the whole roster.
Montgomery's cheap enough that he scores a touchdown. Like he's pretty likely to be somebody you want.
I was going to say Laporta and JMO can probably all just about be in a winning lineup with 1 touchdown. obviously St. Brown and Gibbs can't.
Yeah. Jameson, it depends on the length of Jameson's touchdown, right? But if he's adding one of those 60-yarders, I think he's about 4,900. That's clearly paying off his price tag. And I will say that the players on teams like this, where they spread the ball out and they're expected to be a high scoring team, I feel like they're always under projected because you have the projections have to split stuff up, but it's not necessarily going to get totally split up, right? Like when the game actually starts, or maybe they just go out there and put up 50 points. It's like the Lions, I think, are going to be under-owned. It's just because people are looking at the projections, or even if they're hand building, right? They're just scared to make a decision on which Lion is going to score the points.
Yeah, these are spots that I often manipulate in an optimizer, or I haven't really. It'll be interesting in the sims if I need to manipulate it, because the sim should account for the range of outcomes for players. But often I'll just say yeah, I actually want more than 100% of this split. I want to assume, I don't know which of these, if it's two running backs and, they're kind of project for 50-50 split, but they're both in a great spot at a great price. You use their median projection. It's yeah, you're not going to get to much of either, but I think probably one of them is going to get 70% of the work or 65% of the work. And suddenly I'm going to want that one. So then I take a disproportionate amount and just say, I don't know which one it's going to be, but I'm going to be overweight on both of them. I kind of think that could be this spot for me with the Lions this week. Like Dave was saying, a Lion in every lineup makes some sense. There are ways for it to fail, but there's also a lot of ways for it to go really well.
Yeah, I think rules like that actually help with the idea that the roster spot costs something, right? Because we're going to see high ownership on Rico Dowdle. He's playing for the Panthers. He's averaging 3 yards per rush. He's going to cost a roster spot, even though he's a great value at 4,200 or whatever he is, 4,300. That it's still costing you a running back spot where that you could be using on Jahmyr Gibbs, right? You obviously it would have to make sacrifices somewhere else in your lineup. If you put in a rule like that, I want at least one line, no matter what, then that kind of overcomes that projection optimization hurdle, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the quarterback position. We're actually kind of skipped quarterback. Davis, we'll start with you, and kind of ties into the game environments as well. The running backs are kind of stealing the show with the value and the injuries. If you're starting with a quarterback, who are the names that you're looking
at? Jaden Daniels, I really like. Fields, it's really tough when you don't play. If I'm MMEing, I'd be oh, I'm going to be under on Fields. But I don't know, if I do the spy and I do the single entries on FanDuel, it's okay, well, if I do one of those teams as Fields, then that probably is just about equal with the field. But I just see how this goes poorly for him so clearly in my mind's eye. He doesn't get a rushing touchdown. He gets a batted ball interception. It's just, I've done the Fields thing is so funny. He's always just an elite play when he's not chalky, because we've seen it twice already this year where he just turns a corner and it's all right, well, you just got a 55-yard rushing touchdown out of your quarterback. But he is a bad passer, right? He just is. He's always a beat slow. So I probably am going I'm going to do some Daniel Jones with Pittman Jr. and Warren. How about Jaden Daniels right now projecting to be on 5% of rosters, crazy. That's a great game in a dome. Debo looks awesome, although he is questionable for this game, but Daniels I really, really like.
I think we have to pay attention to the Washington injury report, because we know Terry McLaurin is out and Noah Brown out as well. But that's going to elevate Debo Samuel, but Debo's questionable as well. And if we lose Debo, we are looking at Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, Chris Moore. I think Chris Moore actually led all the three of those guys in snaps. I'd probably go Luke McCaffrey as well. But Jalen Lane has been getting some high value targets. He just needs to do something with them. I guess Neil, quarterback. What are you looking at this week?
Yeah, Justin Herbert to me really stands out. We've seen passing offenses just absolutely torch this Commanders defense multiple times this year. We've had Tucker Kraft had the huge game against them. Trey Tucker had a huge game against them last week against the Falcons. They've just been really bad at stopping the pass. Everybody can score on them. And now we've got maybe one of the best pass offenses in the NFL in the Chargers. Also kind of fun that there's multiple ways you can split it up. I still think Glad McConkey pretty viable. We'll talk about receivers later. But a lot of different ways to split up the Chargers. You're not kind of forced to one build. So I really love Justin Herbert's stacks. It is kind of chalky. Jaden Daniels, I think a good call out. Justin Fields, like,
pretty easy way to make your Chargers stuff unchalky, Neil. One simple
Oronde
click.
Gadsden.
No, Lad McConkey.
Oh, Lad McConkey. Yeah.
No one's everyone. We've reached. Like I just did the stream before, and we took Lad McConkey higher 4.5 receptions, and everyone was like, "Oh God, no! Oh, no chance! No way!"
Such a small sample size, and people are just like, "No, we're out on Lad now." He was
out.
second round pick all drafting season, and now people are like, "Nope, he's just dead." It's Keenan Allen, and it's Quentin Johnston, and Lad is dead. Yeah, it's been 4 weeks. He's gonna have his games,
and his open score, like if you like the ESPN stuff, still looks good. His route win rate, if you like the fantasy points data stuff, still looks good. His PFF, like no one is saying, "Oh, he's actively bad." The ball just hasn't found him in the offense yet.
Yeah, and this is an elite spot. Yeah, no, I think Lad is one of my favorite receivers. I've been taking him a ton in. I've done actually more underdog drafts than usual this week, and I've been taking a ton of Lad. Obviously, you can go to. I mean, Jared Goff actually projected for. I wasn't even thinking about Jared Goff as I'm looking at the contrarian options, but looks like he's actually projected for really low ownership. Yeah, I'll take some.
Well, they've already scored 50 once this year, and he had 12 fantasy points.
Is that right? He only had it
was all rushing.
Yeah, and that could happen again with the David Montgomery narrative with Jahmyr Gibbs. Would not be shocking at all. But at 3% ownership, he could just go the other way. I also like. I'm pretty interested in some of the cheaper contrarian options. So I think Jackson Dart, I still think we just don't know exactly what he's going to be as an NFL quarterback, but he's not getting much ownership. He's pretty cheap. He should be running some. He's a little bit interesting, but then really standing out to me again that Miami Carolina game. We've got Tua at like 2% ownership. We've got Bryce Young's only 4,700, around 3% ownership. Both just have phenomenal matchups. Again, this game could get super ugly, but these games with a wide range of outcomes where they are inexpensive and not getting much ownership, that's just a spot that I want to attack with those quarterbacks.
Bringing up Jared Goff, it occurs to me that the Lions could put up 50 points, and the Jets could put up 13 points, and Justin Fields could double Jared Goff's the actual fantasy score just because of the rushing. And all right, so you mentioned some low price contrarian options, and you did not name either of my favorite two low priced, low owned, contrarian options. Spencer Rattler, how often are you going to be able to play the Saints as a favorite at home in the Dome against a Giants defense? Anybody?
That's the grossest thing I've ever heard, John.
All right.
Who's your partner with him? Who you taking?
Oh, Chris Olave, third in the league in targets. What is it? 5,200 or Rashid Shaheed, right?
So here's your. Well, I mean, are you talking like lotto stuff, or would you do this in the FanDuel single entries or 3 max?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it in single entry or 3 max.
I mean, far be it from me to tell you what to do in the lotto fields. This would be my concern though. Is if Olave crushes in that stack, someone is going to have Olave with Fields because Olave is going to be so popular. So I just wonder how that leverage works with Olave being an actual popular click.
Well, but Rattler could outscore Fields, right? Rattler actually adds something on the ground as well, right? And so I guess we're saying how likely is that Justin Fields really does get one of those long rushing touchdowns? So I'd argue, I think Rattler probably more we could check the odds on this kind of thing, but that Rattler is probably more likely to get 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown than Justin Fields. If Fields isn't getting that rushing touchdown, he's a total zero. And Spencer Rattler is actually playing for the favored team at home, right? The Jets are not. The Jets are the home underdog. So yeah, I'd argue you play Spencer Rattler, hoping he outscores Justin Fields, which is not an impossible task.
No, yeah, it's not a bad call. It's just super gross.
Yeah, I've got one that might be grosser. Well, I don't know, but we have the opportunity to play CJ Stroud against the team giving up the most points in the league so far, this season. And the Ravens are going to be starting Cooper Rush. And you could say that, well, maybe it's a game where the Texans are just going to eat the ball. But I mean, if they want to get their offense going, this is the defense you want to do it against. And if Cooper Rush is turning the ball over on the other side, maybe the Texans are keeping their foot on the gas, hoping, saying like, we're gonna make a statement in this game. We're gonna show people, we're still here or whatever in terms of on offense. Like, they've been good on defense. Any takers on CJ Stroud, Nico Collins?
After you brought up that we had not talked about your favorites, I started looking trying to speculate who it might be, and I saw CJ Stroud. I was like, I kind of like CJ Stroud. I think I've at least thought about taking him in draft games this week because the matchup is so good. Particularly great for slot receiver. So Christian Kirk, come on down. That kind of excites me a little bit. The Stroud to Kirk being kind of an inexpensive stack to play. Obviously, you can play it with Nico Collins. I like that one.
Looking up the Justin Fields touchdown odds. Yeah, so Justin Fields, because we were talking about the Rattler versus Justin Fields. Fields is plus 115 to score a touchdown on DraftKings. So worth considering that, like, Fields is less likely than likely to score a rushing touchdown. I would say if he does not get that rushing touchdown, he's going to be overowned. He's like one of those high strikeout, unable to control the ball pitchers, right? Like when they're seeing high ownership, you do not want to play them, right? Because that's going to be the game where they, walk 6 guys in the first 2 innings and, they're out of there by the third. Like Justin Fields at high ownership is screaming, Breece Hall gets 1 touchdown, Fields gets none, and the Jets, as expected, lose to the Cowboys at home. So yeah, something to consider when you're looking at quarterback for your lineup this week. But, we touched on the running backs, we touched on the quarterbacks. Let's look at the wide receivers. Neil, we'll start with you. In terms of wide receivers, who do you like this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lions receivers all look pretty good. Amon-Ra St. Brown is expensive, getting 17% ownership. I think that's about fair. I don't think I'm going to go overboard there. I think that's about right. Garrett Wilson looking like mega chalk. I do think I'm going to be underweight on Garrett Wilson for the reasons that you guys have both laid out. It's just like, yeah, this is a team that's the defense is terrible at stopping passing attacks, but like this is Justin Fields. Like they could just fail on their own. They don't need the defense to be. The defense, regardless, they can just not put up any fantasy points. So I'll certainly be underweight on Garrett Wilson. George Pickens, I think we've already laid out the reasons that game could go poorly. So players that I'm really interested in, again, all 3 of the Chargers receivers. Quentin Johnson, 5,700 is the chalkiest of the group. Nobody wants to play Lad. Actually, it's a slight exaggeration because he is getting double-digit ownership where I'm looking, and Keenan Allen barely double-digit. So I guess they're higher now than they were earlier in the week. But I'm still interested in all 3 of the Chargers receivers to varying extents. We've got Tyreek Hill out, so Jalen Waddle should see an uptick in usage here. He's only 5,400. He is pretty attractive to me here. I already laid out like Christian Kirk is like sort of a fun contrarian option in a slot funnel matchup for the slot demon.
You guys always do this. You MME bros. You always get to I'm with you, and then we get a Christian Kirk, man. Sub
1% projected ownership for the slot demon in the best, or a very strong slot funnel demon offense. Yeah, come on, you gotta go with the slot demon here. Yeah, I mean I've named some of my favorites. I guess I don't. JMO, obviously, we talked about JMO already. He can score.
Except JMO is not obvious. JMO's one of those guys that people will say on shows, but he's not going to be that owned. Like I'll tell you this, he'll definitely be more owned than whatever his optimal probability is on your favorite website of choice. They'll say he's a bad play. He'll be a bad sim ROI guy pre-lock. He'll be a bad sim guy post-lock, but that's kind of a limitation of, well, maybe not a limitation. I don't know. You need someone a lot smarter than me to talk about this, but it feels like the Lions are a really hard team to deal with in this environment in the NFL because scoring is down, yards are down. Like the scores required to win GPPs are lower. Teams are averaging, it's a 10-year low in yards per pass attempt, 10-year low in rush yards per attempt. Like it was supposed to be, the safeties are playing far away from the line of scrimmage, we should be able to run, but teams aren't running either. It's all touchdown based. So like JMO's 17 points, that feels kind of bad. Like, you can't win with JMO only getting 80 yards and a touchdown on 2 targets. Well, actually, you probably can. You probably can do that now because 17 points at 4,900 is like not disqualifying at all. So I just think it's I don't know how like the best players are dealing with that in their sim process.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. It's one of those like I could be it. So not that it's necessarily a limitation in the Sims, but it is a potential. Like the Sims are all based on the inputs that you put into them. It's not like they're actually telling the future. So I think JMO a pretty strong play there. Couple. I think you can go to Darius Slayton and or Wandale Robinson, particularly in Jackson Dart stacks, but maybe solo as well. We saw when Malik Neighbors missed time last year, we saw a double-digit target game for Darius Slayton. He had a little stretch there where he was being targeted pretty heavily. Again, it's a new quarterback. Who knows if it's going to work out the same way, but at low ownership, I think both Wandale and Darius Slayton a little bit interesting. Maybe Malik Washington at 3,900 again with Tyreek Hill out takes a little bit of a step up. But there's so many wide receivers here. I've already named some of my favorites.
I made fun of Pat Mayo this morning for insisting on Darius Slayton, and he said week 5 last year, Slayton 8 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown. So something to consider. At 4,300, who do you like better, Darius Break the Slayton or Christian Kirk, slot demon?
Ooh, that's really tough. I think I'll go with Kirk because nobody else has named him. so I'll go with the guy that nobody else is talking about.
Yeah, it pairs well with the CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Give me Trey Tucker over both of them.
I think Tucker's a touch more expensive at 4,700, but definitely still doable. What do we think about Jacoby Myers? Is it finally the Jacoby Myers week?
Can we just be done with the Jacoby Myers industrial projection complex? No, he actually probably is quite strong this week. The Colts just had a defender who played 84% of their snaps up until this point just retire. No idea who's behind Xavier Howard for the Colts, but you just would have to imagine it's a difficult spot. The issue here is that this is a huge mismatch with the lines. The Raiders just lost their best offensive lineman, Colton Miller. He's not going to play this week. The Colts defensive line is very good. What does that do? And Bowers is not even going to practice at all this week, but they said there's a chance he can play. So he's going to play probably without practicing in that giant brace that he can't move with. So that does all kind of line up for Jacoby Myers.
And we've seen it, right? We saw the Trey Tucker week. We saw the Ashton Genty week. And so Jacoby just keeps disappointing people. Are people going to go there 3 weeks in a row and be ready to be hurt again? And this could be the Jacoby Myers week.
It's going to be a lot less people. Yeah. He'll be less played than his projection implies that he should be.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Actually, we should. I'm going to play a game where we just rank the Chargers or wide receivers on DraftKings. So I'll note on FanDuel, I think Quentin Johnston's the 7th most expensive wide receiver on FanDuel, and Ladd McConkey is substantially cheaper than both Keenan Allen and Johnston on FanDuel. On DraftKings, McConkey is still the cheapest, but it's just $100 difference between him and Keenan Allen, then $100 difference between Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston. So Davis, I guess we'll start with you. Rank the Chargers wide receivers, factoring in price, which is about the same, and ownership. Do you like Johnston, Allen, or McConkey?
Look, man, I'm going down. I'm going down with the ship. I refuse to believe that Quentin Johnston has monstarred Ladd McConkey's ability. And actually, you guys want to hear? Oh, this is going to be so dark. So Ben Gretsch made this point, and I'm stealing it. But if the QJ breakout is really real and defenses are going to start treating it as real, that means they're going to start to tilt the safeties over to Quentin Johnston, which will open it up underneath and in the middle for Ladd McConkey, which is a sentence that I never in my life would have thought that I would have said. But this is now a realistic way that Ladd can get there in a game.
Neil,
followed by QJ, followed by Keenan. Keenan is running real hot, and I is the most likely to suffer via combination of age and just his luck's going to run out in terms of scoring quicker than the other two.
I absolutely thought you were going most likely to suffer an injury.
You seen his AC joints? I mean, it's a miracle this dude can play football.
I mean, Keenan Allen 8.5 targets per game so far this year. So like he's not just getting lucky; he's being targeted quite a bit. Like he has
Yeah.
outperformed his touchdown expectation. But I have it in the exact same order. I do like Lad McConkey the best at the like. I, I think so. Actually, I think Keenan Allen is probably the one that is least likely to see ownership. I do like. Part of me wants to say it's Lad McConkey because nobody's seen it yet. Nobody wants to play him, but I've been like loving him all week. Davis loves him. I kind of think that we might surprise ourselves.
There's
with the field.
definitely a certain fraction of the fantasy football community
Yeah.
that is like, oh, dude, this is the Lad McConkey week.
So it wouldn't be that surprising to me if Lad ends up at 17%. It would surprise me if Keenan ends up at 17%, which kind of leads me almost back to Keenan. But no, I do think that you have the order correct. I will say this is so far in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, particularly nice matchup for slot receivers, sixth best for slot receivers so far in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. Keenan Allen lining up in the slot 47% of the time. Lad McConkey 63% of the time, QJ 16% of the time. So if you think it's just a slot thing, QJ runs the fewest routes from the slot. But we've also just seen splash plays, and QJ pretty capable of those splash plays. So I think kind of a nice matchup for all of them. But yeah, I think you have the order right. That it's probably Lad number 1, QJ number 2, Keenan Allen number 3, with a caveat that like if we do end up seeing a 10% gap in ownership between Keenan Allen and the others, then that might flip things for me if he ends up 10% lower owned than the others.
Yeah, we're going to end up skipping over Keenan Allen. He's going to get 10 receptions, 120 yards.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's inevitable. I agree. I think that in a vacuum, I think my order would be McConkey, then Johnston, then Keenan Allen. I might try to get more Quentin Johnston on DraftKings. Like if I end up playing, kind of equal amounts on FanDuel and DraftKings, I actually think it makes sense because there is a real savings on Lad McConkey. So like maybe you go over the field on McConkey on FanDuel, and try to do something with the savings. And on DraftKings, they're all about the same price, and you end up with a lot of Quentin Johnston, and you just like brace yourself for the inevitable like Keenan Allen game. What about AJ Brown? Squeaky wheel narrative. I know that this game is probably not going to see a ton of ownership. Facing a Denver defense that is pretty good, but not unassailable. We can attack it. Any takers on AJ Brown?
Probably going to get this Sertan coverage, right? He's going to get the shadow. I would think. I'm looking up the likelihood of that. He's also getting double digit ownership where I'm looking. So like if he were super contrarian, I'd say yeah, it's AJ Brown. He can do it against anybody, but he's getting double digit ownership and shadow coverage from Patrick Surtain. So I guess I'm not super into it. He'll probably make my player pool in a 150 set, but not somebody I anticipate being overweight on.
Davis, any AJ Brown down at 6,000? Can I interest you at 6,000?
I mean, look, you can interest me. I see why one would want to do such a thing, but it's also like, how low can AJ Brown? I get in these spots a lot with the Eagles where I'm like, how low can their ownership really be? Because everyone knows they are good. The projections always kind of like them. So it's like, oh, I'm going to roll over AJ Brown at 2%. Oh, nope, you actually rolled over AJ Brown at 8%, which means in a given contest, 500 other teams also have AJ Brown on it. So you thought you were unique, but you really weren't. And you're stuck being like, wow, the Eagles really didn't complete a pass in the second half, huh? That's wild. Yep. He obviously he is one of the most underowned guys relative to his ceiling projection in this slate. Because if they decide to throw the ball, like Patrick Surtain is just going to have to sit and watch what AJ Brown does to him. AJ Brown is one of the few guys who actually is so good. There is not a defensive corner who could just shut him down.
All right,
Eagles are so frustrating.
One more wide receiver I want to touch on because I think we're going to see some Rico Dowdle ownership. Do we try to get leverage with Ted McMillan? We've been seeing these rookies go berserk, in week 4. We've seen Ibuka be putting up the big numbers. Like Ted McMillan's look good. We're still waiting for the big statistical game. Neil, any interest in some Ted?
Yeah, absolutely interested in Ted McMillan. He's getting double-digit ownership. I think that's totally fair. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up 20-25% Ted McMillan. I think he looks great in this matchup. Also, this is an opportunity to tell everybody that Cokeheads, we back up. Jalen Coker next week going to be opening his window, his 21-day practice window. So that's exciting for me as somebody who drafted way too much Jalen Coker this summer.
Practice window news also. Taysom Hill, get ready for some Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
coming up in
that's
Taysom
a
Hill
few
soon.
weeks.
I would have drafted so much of that guy in best ball if I would have thought there was any chance he was back this soon.
Right? This is insane.
I would have never taken Jatavian Sanders or Theo Johnson or any of these guys. I would have had 50%.
I thought it was likely he was going to miss the entire season.
The whole
I
season.
thought that was the most likely scenario.
They were talking about having to cut him as a cap casualty to say, it's just it's a nightmare, dude. I can't believe this is happening.
Any final thoughts on wide receiver? Any super gross plays anybody wants to throw out? Like Chris Godwin, Troy Franklin.
Well, Chris Godwin, 17.6 expected fantasy points last week. I will toss out Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton and Jacoby Myers because the Colts secondary is so bad. I also got a stat on Teteroy McMillan. If the aggregated quarterbacks facing Miami were a quarterback, they'd be the quarterback one over the Dallas defense. Now, part of that is because Fields had so much rushing against them, so it maybe doesn't exactly count the way you think it would, but they're terrible. So
yeah,
I'm in on Tet.
Some injuries to the Tampa defense. I just saw my guy Debro tweeting out that this could be a good spot for JSN. JSN super chalky, but also Cooper Kupp, also inexpensive and not getting any ownership. We didn't talk about Sam Darnold, but with Jamel Dean out in particular, maybe a sneaky spot for the Seahawks. Maybe somebody I'll have to consider a little bit. Not like a huge priority, but Jamel Dean being out certainly helps there with the Seahawks offense, and it's pretty inexpensive. So I think that's that Cooper Kupp probably the final gross name that I'll throw out there.
Yeah, actually, well, yeah. So I think Cooper Kupp is plausible. But I will say we sometimes bury the lead because I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is in the best spot of any wide receiver this week in my opinion. He's the guy. And again, one of the elements of this slate is that we're missing Christian McCaffrey and Puka Nacua. I think JSN is the next best thing. I think him as Puka Jr. in my head. Just with the amount of targets he gets, the number of receptions he piles up, the consistency. He's 7,100. So his price is getting up. His price in week one, sub 6,000 was preposterous. But it's still a bargain at 7,100. So I think that he's getting at least 80 yards, right? He's starting the game with his stats from last week, four receptions and 80 yards. And he's usually adding on top of that at 7,100. That's something you want to try to get.
I've got an interesting one for you guys. So regardless of the projection system, you're going to have JSN and St. Brown are going to be projected between 2 points and 3 points higher than every other wide receiver in the pool, period. Given the availability of all these cheap running backs, don't you think the building block this week is kind of well, you get those guys in and then you work back, and you were just going to be don't mess around with Chris Olave. Don't mess around with Jalen Waddle. Just get the guys who literally before lock project the best to be in the winning lineups.
I like it better. I mean, I guess I don't like it to the same extent as Puka Nacua and Christian McCaffrey last week, but yes, I think
but it's kind of the same effect though. The overall scores are lower, but it's the same standard deviation effect.
Sure. I just I get what you're saying that it's easy to fit them in. I think with Amon-Ra in particular, I like it less just because I think that there are ways, like you said, where it could just be a bunch of rushing touchdowns. They might just not need to throw much, and he's expensive enough that if he doesn't score one in the first half, it might just be over. But again, you've also said, they do keep their foot on the gas, and we saw him score 4 touchdowns already this year in a game where it was a blow and they kept throwing it to him. So certainly could get there, but I think that it's easier to see that failing than it was Puka Nacua last week, I think, to me. But yeah, I agree. That's certainly a way you could build. These guys look pretty great.
All right. Let's say you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown in your lineup, right? You have one wide receiver spot available. You have $7,800. Do you put Jamar Chase in there, or are you putting in Jackson Smith and Jigba? $700.
Jason,
yeah.
If Chase beats me, I'll tip my cap and I'll say shout out to you for believing in Jake Browning. The thing that's so tough with the Bengals is that they don't care. They actively are not caring on the field.
I think the wide receivers care. I'll push back on that
yes,
because the wide
yes.
receivers care.
Chase and T care big time. That's you know what? That's fair. They care big time.
Yeah, and as a result, I think Jake Browning probably cares too, because like he doesn't want to be the guy who the receivers are all pissed off at. So
if their third quarterback was still Brandon Allen, we probably would see a switch this week. But their third quarterback is, I just looked this up yesterday, it's Brett Rippon. So it's like they don't even have anything they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, like so yes, probably would be JSN. JSN just projects better unless it's like a Detroit stack. Then in that case, I would use the Chase bring back.
Yeah, I do think it's possible that Jamar Chase is one of the guys that just breaks the slate. Like I'm not gonna have him on any of my lists, but I would actually. So I prefer JSN, but I think if I'm playing him on Rossi and Brown, if I had the money, I think I'd go Jamar Chase, right? Yeah, because like the receivers always care, right? The receivers are always in the quarterback's ear. Like it doesn't matter if he's arguing with the head coach or the offensive coordinators. Just give me the ball. You know, that's how I get paid. So yeah, I do think Jamar Chase will be under owned, assuming he sees minimal ownership. But we should move on to the tight end position. Neil, we'll start with you. It's been pretty bleak this year. What are your thoughts on the tight end?
Yeah, I mean, McBride has just been pretty good. He's the chalk. Tyler Warren price just not moving, even when he's getting goal line carries. He's still just 4,700. Looks pretty good. I'm starting to kind of with the top of ownership. Brock Bowers in the knee brace still, I think, has not been practicing. He could miss this game. I think it's pretty likely that he plays and he's still limited. This is finally the week that I think I'm not going to play it. And so he'll probably go off this week after I don't play it. But yeah, not super excited about it. I think my favorites, looking at like ownership and price tag, and Jake Ferguson also looks good, also chalky. But Sam Laporta stands out to me as just everybody's playing all of the Lions except for Sam Laporta at 4,200. A great spot for Sam Laporta. Also, again, they can get going with whoever they want to. Maybe they want to get Sam Laporta going since he hasn't done much so far this year. I still think the talent is there. Matchup is elite. So I really like Sam Laporta here. Mason Taylor again in that matchup looks pretty good. Jawan Johnson, we're getting at single digit ownership, looks okay. I think the one that really interests me at really low ownership is Tommy Tremble. We got the news that Jatavian Sanders is out again this week. When Jatavian Sanders is out, Tommy Tremble just has an elite role on the Panthers. Like I think is the number 2 target on this offense right now. So I actually think he is a pretty strong play. It's kind of a sort of like pretty deep tight end week for me, I think, because but not like deep in the sense that we don't have much separation. I think it's more like we don't have like awesome elite tight end plays where it's like this is super obvious, but we have a lot of like, yeah, it wouldn't really surprise me if he puts up 16 fantasy points. So I'm kind of leaning into the cheaper guys who are not getting a ton of ownership. It's going to be a lot of also stacked with my quarterback. But yeah, the one that I think I'm more interested in than the field is Tommy Tremble at 2% ownership, 2,900 with Jatavian Sanders out.
I said this morning, if Tremble had put up 15 DraftKings points on Monday night instead of Darren Waller, would be talking about Tremble much more. And people are, oh yeah, I think we should go to Darren Waller with no Tyreek Hill.
Right.
I think Tremble at $600 cheaper. It's probably a better play. Davis, how about you? Any tight ends that are sticking out to you that you would like prioritize over just stacking with your quarterback?
I mean, I just would really prioritize playing the guys who are just the worst play. Is there like a worse play in DFS history than the $3,800 chalk tight end? Isn't it always just like Darren Waller, just like super zero? Like Jawan Johnson's not a particularly good play if he's going to get owned. Jake Ferguson's not a particularly good play if he's going to get owned. You know who is a good play if those guys get owned? The 2 guys who project. I'm trying to look full PPR projection. How many points better are Tyler Warren and Trey McBride than everyone else? 3 points better than everyone else, 6 points better than everyone Jawan Johnson and lower, like a touchdown better than, and it's just like, well, you're not even really getting charged for them. Trey McBride is cheap. Tyler Warren is super cheap. Like, isn't the efficient ownership for Tyler Warren probably like 35% or something this week?
I think that's a little bit high, but yeah, higher than it is for sure.
Yeah.
Is there a rule they can't raise his price for some reason? Like, why is he still just 4,700?
I guess maybe he doesn't have a receiving touchdown yet. Maybe that's it. It was a rushing touchdown.
True.
Like, who
Yeah.
knows the intricacies of the DraftKings algorithm and like what it is always doing. But it is just I don't understand it.
Yeah. So yeah, 70 yards in 3 out of his first 4 NFL games. A name nobody mentioned, Zach Ertz. Got a receiving touchdown in every game that Jaden Daniels has played so far this season, which is just weeks 1 and 2. But yeah, Zach Ertz just 3,800. I think he's an interesting play. He's maybe one of the few guys I would play. Just without the quarterback that's not Tyler Warren, Trey McBride, or Jake Ferguson. Any thoughts on Brock Bowers? Like, is it just he's just hurt, he's playing through it, and we should probably be like docking his projection as we make
his efficiency should be like mega docked. Yeah. He's not even practicing this week.
Yeah.
He's gotten in one limited practice.
He seems to still project well. I guess it depends on what projection system you're looking at, but I think there should be like a mental or just actual
literally just dock him. Like in my sheet where I aggregate the projections, I've got him for 12.18. I probably just dock him to 11 flat and see if that does anything. Because I guess he could catch a touchdown. He's on the field 90% of the snaps.
Yeah, I'll say his price is down $1,000 from week 1. Right, started the season at 6,500, now 5,500. So it's going down each week, and he is still seeing targets, at least 5 targets in each game, and it is the tight end position. So there's going to be a time when the price drops right below like the amount of efficiency the injury is costing him. I'm just not sure it's this week, but it is an indoor environment against the Colts, so I'm talking myself into it as I started off super negative on Brock Bowers. Now, well, maybe hasn't worked for anybody else, but it could work for us.
It's a spot where I wouldn't be surprised if we flip over the cards and he's actually like 5% owned. Like, so at that point, I would have a lot of interest. It's just right now, it's like he's being projected for like he's too expensive clearly for like the role he has had recently, and then also the ownership is in the double digits. So you factor both those things in, and it's like, yeah, I'm not that super into it. But then if we do flip over the cards and he's 5%, then I'll feel like an idiot for not playing more Brock Bowers because he still clearly has that like 25 point upside.
So, we're running close to an hour here. We'll start wrapping it up. Any final thoughts on the week? Davis, we'll start with you. Any final thoughts on the 10-game slate?
I mean, I guess probably the best advice I could give you wouldn't be about any specific plays. It would just be more strategy that just open up your sheet, whatever your projections are, and literally just look at how close everyone projects, like how few points there are. Or something I like to do is literally run like 1,000 lineups in the whatever your thing is, and then could just compare the projected points from the first lineup and then compare the projected points from the 1,000 lineup. And I've not done that yet, but I'm going to guess you could run 1,000 teams and have like a 7-point gap or something, just one of those weeks. So if you were like, oh man, Kamara's going to score a bunch of points, or the field is not going to play Laporta enough because they're on the Lions, but Laporta, like just whatever, I would say it's a good week to kind of no ball a little bit, or just have, because everything's going to look so bunched up.
Yeah. Think about how often a touchdown goes this way or that, right? On replays is put in or out, right? Like that's the difference between the first lineup and the 1,000th lineup when you're running all of those lineups. So yeah, it just brings to mind like how closely bunched everything can be when the scoring is down. Neil, how about you? Any closing thoughts on the week?
Yeah, I think it's a week to really lean in on game stacks. Like we've got a lot of games that I think could go like major, like wide range of outcomes, or it like could get pretty gross or could be really fun. So I'm going to lean into that. When I play the Jets, for example, I'm going to want probably pieces of Dallas on the other side. It's probably I'm going to be a little bit underweight overall, but when I do play pieces from that game, I want it to be like a full game stack, just bet on the whole thing going off. But I think it's the same thing with like the Giants and the Saints. I think that's one, like, it's pretty gross, but like you could kind of envision that game surprising and being a lot of fun. Miami, Carolina, same thing. Across the board, I think there's just a lot of game environment. Cincinnati, Detroit, where it's like there's a huge spread, but if Cincinnati can push them, keep up at all, suddenly if the wide receivers are finally doing something, that's where you really get fireworks from this game. So I think just across the board, I'm going to be game stacking more than usual this week.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. That the totals might be bunched together when Vegas sets them, right? But at the end of the week, one game is probably going to stand out amongst the others, or maybe one or two games stands out amongst the others. So if you're doing the game stacks, right, you're hopefully catching on to that correlation and seeing a line, adding some variance to your lineup that helps it in a tournament. But that'll just about do it for us for this week. Any final comments? All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll hopefully catch you next week and hopefully see you at the top of the leaderboards this week. Till next time.